No, this is not a motion picture trick. The Jeep is really going to go wading. It's the result of a process worked out in the ETO, a new wrinkle in the fight against the axis. Vehicles so processed can operate in approximately 3 1/2 feet of water for periods up to 6 minutes. The process involves extending the air intake and gasoline tank vent above water level and the protection of all vulnerable engine parts with an asbestos waterproofing compound. The human element, however, figures most importantly. Consider this failure. This vehicle never would have stalled if the driver had followed instructions. Were this an actual invasion landing, he'd be an ideal target and by blocking other vehicles might endanger the success of the whole operation. The driver must realize that the vehicle entrusted to him is his responsibility. Together they play a part in winning the war. He must realize that any carelessness in waterproofing his vehicle may cost him his own life. Let's follow this sergeant as he takes us through the 3 preparatory phases or stages of the waterproofing process. The first of which is done prior to arrival at the embarkation point. From his supply clerk, our sergeant receives his kit. It contains sufficient basic materials to waterproof 5 steps. Last step in phase 2 is the improvising of an extension for the air intake. Rubber impregnated canvas tubing or metal flexible tubing can be used. Here we see the driver using the former. He has split the tubing, forming 2 slits on opposite sides. This permits the tube to overlap when fastened onto the air intake assembly. 2 or 3 turns of the reinforcing wire from the inside of the split end of tubing are removed. Then, using wire and friction tape, the tube is fastened onto the induction tube assembly, approximately 2 inches from the end. The join thus made is sealed over and additional wire used to secure it in position. The free end is brought out under rear lower part of the hood and up along the windshield. Finally, it is fastened to the small loop on top of the tubular windshield frame. Care is taken in closing hood to prevent pinching down on the tubing. The vehicle is now ready for phase 3, which is done aboard the craft. However, no longer than 12 hours may elapse between time of processing and the time when the vehicle is to enter water. Ideally, this last phase should be executed during the last hour before wading. The engine must be cool when this phase is being completed. The driver must now seal the distributor vent with a layer of AWC at least 1/4 inch thick. He takes the precaution of first inspecting the vent hole to make certain it is clean. The end of the friction tape ripcord is left protruding from the compound. It is most important not to bring the tape out directly over the distributor vent hole. With small wads of AWC, the driver now seals all battery vents. Only 2 steps remain to be done before the vehicle is ready to wade. The driver reseals the ignition switch in the on position. He also checks and reseals the starter switch immediately before entering water. And so we see a successful wade. The sergeant has followed instructions to the letter, for he knows that he and his vehicle are a team with a real job before them. He knows, too, that by performing that job well, he will be protecting his own life, the lives of others and doing a soldier's part in helping to speed inevitable victory.